Lewis. So here we are then. After years of fiscal mismanagement and failed vanity projects, we have finally arrived at the inevitable. Some of the largest cuts in devolution history to local services and highest hikes to council tax across North Wales. But the situation actually isn't funny, despite you laughing. Since 2000, council tax in Conway has increased by 256%. 20% of this in the last 2 years alone, the highest of any in Wales. Therefore, I hope this debate goes some way to outlining to voters, those who may just be watching today, and if a good enough Welsh media pick up just how bad things are for local government under Welsh. This is after a quarter of a century of Welsh Labour. And of course, Plaid Cymru are culpable also. Particularly so, and I have to say, Peridou, that your contribution just, wow, it surpassed all forms of comedy. Because you're culpable, because you've just spent the last 3 years working and voting with Welsh Labour 9 times out of 10. Once again, North Wales has had to contend with a harsh reality. A consecutive year of receiving lower council funding settlement compared to those in South Wales. Conway has received the lowest increased settlement of only £3.9 billion from 23-24, a reduction in real terms. 2% increase on 22-23. Go on, being as it's you, Mike.
Inbushire had the fourth highest debt increase.
Thank you. Which is a whopping 1% less than the national average of 3%. As I have stated here before, Conway is facing huge cuts to local services. Education, which is seeing cuts of over 5% this year. Nowhere in Wales is this more clear in Conway, with many constituents and parents writing to me saying these cuts are simply unacceptable and heartbreaking. And I haven't held back in my response to those constituents. I mean, we've been calling for years for schools to be funded directly. Looking at the second tier, you know, like in North Wales, it's Gware. And the amounts of bureaucracy and waste money that my colleague has already mentioned, James Evans. To add insult to injury, Conway is set to see one of the highest council tax rises across Wales. And of course, it's Labour, Plaid Cymru and Independent now in power there. It's a scandal. We must end this spiral to the bottom of the barrel. North Wales is being left to wither. And I say enough is enough. I would like to ask the Minister for Finance, you must be having talks with your Labour colleagues, if, and only if, people were silly enough to vote them in to government, not realising what they've done to Wales. What settlement in funding would you be providing to this Welsh Government? Our leader, Charlie McCowbray, said 30% of the data used is long out of date, and that's to do with the funding formula. I held the role of local government. We were cabinet secretaries, I think, in those days, and I asked for a funding formula review going back all those years. I was told by the minister at the time, you're the only person who asked for it. No other leader of any of the councils have asked for it. So I wrote to all the council leaders, and they wrote back to me in no uncertain terms that they agreed with the funding formula review. So I'm going back now to around 2014, and here we are in 2024. We're still arguing about this funding formula. It's time that you looked at places like... No, sorry, Rhianna, we can discuss this another time this week. Sorry, Rhianna. But the point being, Minister, you're just going to keep defending this position year after year, term after term. What is it that you're so frightened of in holding an independent review of the local government funding formula? Is it the blatant reality that you know that Labour-controlled councils are doing much better, and those local authorities that hold high reserves? We have got one of the oldest demographics in Wales, in Conway, with the older people. And our social care is on its knees. Surely you should be concerned, and every minister around this cabinet table, concerned where there's no real equality. It's a word that's often overused in your agendas, but the real equality is missing in local authorities such as Conway, where our older people now are being failed miserably and let down. Jock and Powell.